Hi, my name is Eric Frank. I am co-founder and CEO of Acrobatiq, powered by Carnegie Mellon. So before I talk about what we do, I want to talk a little bit about where we came from. So we're a direct spin out from Carnegie Mellon University. A lot of expertise there on learning science, how do people learn, and data science, how do you model things like learning. All that came together in a project called the Open Learning Initiative. It was an applied research project trying to ask the question, can we take what we know about how people learn and modeling, bring those together in a technology environment, and deliver digital course experiences that improve learning outcomes. And over the years, there was a lot of data that said yes in peer-reviewed journals, that students were, the learning impact of this sort of learn by doing approach engendered there had a 6x impact on learning over traditional means of reading and watching videos or lectures. Learners were accelerating, they were completing courses faster, less time on task, remembering more effectively when retested in the future, applying what they had learned to unique and novel problems more effectively than traditional students sitting in traditional classes, and most importantly, completing courses in higher numbers when they were using materials generated and provided on the Open Learning Initiative platform. So that led Carnegie Mellon to decide in 2013 that this was time to spin this out of a research context and commercialize it and bring the scale and impact to the world. And so that's what gave birth to Acrobatiq. So Acrobatiq is really a platform that helps students complete courses and stay on track to graduate by enabling our partners to build high-impact, adaptive, and data-enabled learning experiences for their learners. We've raised about $24 million in capital. Carnegie Mellon's our largest shareholder, but joined by some venture capitalists, Draper Triangle, the equity investing arm of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Hearst Ventures, and other investors. The team is strong. We kind of bring together sort of operating expertise in the world of education. I've been doing this for over 20 years in executive roles in publishing and had a prior venture-backed startup. My co-founder is a serial entrepreneur with multiple exits, including education experts. But more importantly, we sort of brought that operating expertise together with people like our chief learning scientist, who's a Carnegie Mellon faculty and brings sort of deep cognitive science expertise and other data science expertise from CMU together into the team. The product is basically a platform. It's a SaaS platform. It has authoring tools for building effectively designed instructional materials, for delivering them to students in an adaptive fashion, and for analyzing the data that comes out of it and turning that into useful analytics that can be used to drive better student outcomes. We also have a library of content, adaptive content that schools can start with and adapt and deploy quickly, and professional services wrapped around that. Pricing model is pretty straightforward, so annual subscriptions to the platform based on the number of students that are taking courses on the platform. Content as an upsell, so if they choose to use our content, students will pay for that content directly and pay for professional services. Highly predictable model, 90% of our revenue is recurring today, which is a good place to be. And we think that the potential is really to be a global leader in this emerging field of learning analytics and adaptive learning. We really started thinking about this question of what if we could, from a product point of view, what if we could enable effective design at scale, give tools to people who are not inherently instructional designers or data scientists and have them build great things. So we have a set of authoring tools that allow you to identify learning objectives for lessons and then start building content from templates. And those templates allow you to quickly build and compile content that's tied to those learning objectives so we can collect data against it. And you can do all kinds of content from typical text and images to videos to taking advantage of a formative assessment library to build formative assessment onto pages to taking things like static images and creating overlays and zoom in points and making them much more highly interactive. And ultimately, the goal is to produce better outcomes for students through better design so that you're creating experiences that are organized around clear learning goals that allow students to engage with materials in an interactive fashion and most importantly, allow them to stop and learn by doing, by frequently engaging in small granular formative assessment, getting feedback along the way. And the important thing about all that is it's producing lots and lots of data about what is the student's learning state or level of mastery against all the objectives of the course. That allows us to use data to really optimize those learning outcomes. So here's an instructor and they go to this biology course to the learning dashboard and they can start to answer questions about what is going on in their class, questions that have historically been hard to answer, things around behavior. but also things around learning. So in the last 48 hours, which learning objectives that my students have worked on are they struggling with? And so I can start to see that, recognizing how ligands affect proteins is really a trouble point for my students. I could click on the red section and see which students in particular are struggling with that, and then communicate with those students and set up, an office hours or a tutoring session. I can look at things like who's having trouble in my class right now, which students are having difficulties, and drill down, and I can see which students are completing the work. But I can also see the effect of that work on their learning state. So the students are generally doing more and learning more, which is what we'd expect, but we have some problem spots, some people who are starting to do a lot of work but aren't learning very much. And we want to intervene with them as early as possible. So you could drill down, see who that is, and then conduct an intervention with that student around the work that they've been doing. What if we could adapt to the needs of each learner? In this case, I'm going to skip to here. We know that students come with knowledge gaps, right? They reach physics, they're struggling with basic math. And so we have an ability to do prerequisite assessment within courses, identify prior knowledge gaps, and then based on the student's performance, prepare a sort of getting ready set of instructions tailored to exactly what they need. They work through it, and at the end it says, okay, you're ready to move on into the core materials because you've just remediated just in time. So last thing I want to talk about is just traction. So in our fiscal year we've recently completed, we did over $3 million in revenue, over 90% is recurring. But probably the most important thing to us is we've got some really strong partners. If you think about sort of the most innovative online and fastest growing institutions like Western Governors, we're partnering deeply with them to be able to allow them to scale up development of these kinds of courses and organize instruction increasingly around the kinds of data that we're producing. Or places like Rio Salado, probably the biggest online community college, building out high DFW courses, trying to improve student completion rates by getting them through general education, or UC Berkeley, who's building out executive MBA programs for their students on the platform. So that's Acrobatiq in a nutshell. Thank you.